He doesn't take the pawn.
What? Why not? Why not? Wow,
mate. He's going for mate.
This was an absolutely stunning semi-final between Hikaru Nakamura and Maxime Vachier Lagrave. It's the Speed Chess Championship, and this was one of the games of the match and the most phenomenally exciting endgame we've witnessed in the entire tournament. So Hikaru playing with white here, he kicks off with pawn e4, we get c5, the Sicilian in response. Now this is the 3 minutes plus 1 second on the clock section of the match. Then we move into bullet. Now Maxime was ahead at this point, but only just, so a real fight. Now we get knight f3, knight c6 and c3, the Alpine Sicilian. Now how does black respond? Well, d5, very common. After captures, we get queen takes back and there's no knight to c3, picking up a tempo because the pawn sits there, and so Hikaru goes knight a3. Weird looking move, but there is ideas of jumping to b5 later, and it also supports bishop to c4. We now see bishop f5, and Hikaru already mixes up his lines, going pawn to d4. Now why is this not so precise? Well, Daniel Naroditsky showed that you can capture this pawn straight away, which Maxime didn't play, he missed. Now if white liquidates everything on d4, you end up with a bad pawn structure, black is better, and if you hop with knight b5, threatening this royal family fork here, well then black's got this great move of castles queenside, and there's no time to pick up this pawn with either of the knights because e5 comes, driving away the knight. You know, you can even give a piece because if it moves you get mated in one. Now let's compare this whole line to the game, because Maxime doesn't take, he plays e6 first, but now Hikaru's got time for bishop e3, and after captures, knight b5, threatening this check, castles queenside. Well now when Hikaru captures this pawn, e5 is no longer working, because when this bishop developed, the rook connected with the queen, and so the knight can simply take, pick up a piece, you haven't got the same checkmate in one. So subtle stuff. And again, Maxime now, it's his turn to go wrong in the opening. So basically, white has this threat of going queen a4 and exerting this huge pressure on the king side, well, queen side, but the side the king is castled on. And so black should apparently take on d4 with this knight, or go bishop c5. It's the best way to try and defend the king. But if you go bishop g6, very natural move to escape this attack, or knight g to e7, which Maxime plays, you know, defending this knight, and this one developing a piece. Well, now queen a4 is very strong for white, but Hikaru misses it. Okay, this is human chess. He takes off that bishop, the knight recaptures, and now after the queens come off the board, well, we can see that here Hikaru picks up a pawn for free. Now, why would this one be allowed? Why would Maxime just be going a pawn down? Well, after king c7, he's threatening b6, trapping that bishop, then going king b7 to win it. So Hikaru retreats, but he's only got this square available, and now MVL can shatter the pawn structure and exert huge pressure on this pawn immediately. The king covers, but now bishop c5 renews the attack, rook e1 defends again, but rook d8 check. The king is driven away and the pawn can now drop off the board. But guess what? MVL does not take that pawn. He plays rook e to d5. What is he going for here? And this is where we get the initial reaction of the commentary team.
He doesn't take the pawn.
What? Why not? Why not?
So MVL showing this amazing fighting spirit the entire match. Now after rook e2, stopping the invasion of the rooks, we now get rook d1. Okay, what's MVL steering for? Kind of hampers the white development, right? But where's this actually leading to? Because after g3, bishop g2 is coming, Hikaru is going to complete development, be a pawn up. Well, this is where MVL unleashes a sacrifice, a thunderbolt out of nowhere. He smashes through on e3, winning a pawn, and the computer does not like it, as you can see. But this is quite a deep idea, because after the rook captures, this second rook comes down, forces the king out, and then we see rook b1. And now this is where we get the second reaction from the guys. They're trying to figure out what's going on.
I don't get this. I guess rook d2, rook f, rook b1. Wow. Wow,
Going for
wow, wow.
mate. He's going for mate.
So MVL setting up all kinds of ideas, such as takes here, driving the king to c4, b5 check, and then rook d5 closing the trap on the king. Just some of the ideas. So Hikaru goes king to a3. Apparently best was king c4 according to the engine, but you're walking into danger, doesn't look natural. And now if you take here, which MVL does not do, then you run into bishop c4. It holds the pawn. This was Hikaru's idea of sidestepping the king, and white's just doing great even after this pawn drops. But what we see in the game is this classy move, the star move of the game for me, rook f2. So you hit that bishop, and how do you actually defend it? Well, you can't. So bishop g2 is forced, because now you develop and protect your rook so that if black takes, you're in a position to recapture, and there's no time to capture here or white captures here. So MVL now takes this pawn, but he's double attacking a2 and the bishop. The bishop has to save itself, and now you take with check, the king sidesteps, another check, king c4, and a third pawn is now won. MVL has got 3 pawns for the piece. What a fascinating endgame that he's set up here. So we get rook d1 activating. MVL challenges the file, saying please swap off a pair of rooks. You'll make my pawn stronger, I feel. So Hikaru agrees, sidesteps with rook to a1, and again, instead of kind of trying to do the same thing, right, here Maxime goes rook d6, such a fighting spirit, not trying to repeat things or pester. He's down to 4.5 seconds here. Now we get rook e5, activating. The king steps up the board. This rook joins the party, threatening nasty things. So this one steps back, and after rook here, Maxime forces a trade of 1 pair of rooks. That one's pinned to the white king, of course. So we get takes. Rook recaptures. Now rook a8. Hikaru coming behind these pawns wants to mop them off the board. Now rook f2, apparently best, coming behind like this. But g6 played. This is human chess. We get rook f8. f5 saves that pawn, but opens up the 7th rank. Check, the king goes. Which pawn do you now win? Well, Hikaru goes for this one. Good move. He snaps it off so that he can run this c pawn, create a pass pawn of his own. h5 on the board, and now Hikaru goes wrong here, but they're down to seconds. So apparently rook g7 or rook h7 best, coming behind those pawns. Hikaru goes king to d3, preparing to run his own pawn, very natural, but now g5, c4, and he's opened up the 3rd rank. We get check, the king moves, and this pawn drops. It's a complete blunder by Hikaru. Look at this avalanche of 3-4 connected pass pawns rumbling down the board, and now things get worse. Bishop c8 pressures this pawn here, but the rook comes behind, and this one's just dropping off the board. We get rook d7 check, drives the king forward. Now the rook comes back, preparing to win this pawn. The c pawn drops, the bishop's attacked. First we get check, king f4, bishop b7, coming onto this long diagonal, and rook c2 check was followed by rook b2, putting more pressure on white's bishop. So bishop c6 played. g4, look at these pawns, space invaders rumbling down the board. Rook h6 comes behind, but great composure from Maxime. Rook b6 pressures the bishop. No time to take here, or black takes here. Your 2 pawns to the good, winning endgame. So king d4 played, marching in with the king to defend the bishop, hit the rook. h4, king c5, and now brilliant move to seal the deal from MVL. He takes this bishop, the king recaptures, doesn't matter how you recapture. These pawns are now running through. Here they come down the board, down the yellow brick road, as Danya said, and this is where we get resignation from Hikaru Nakamura. You can't stop one of them becoming a queen. So an excellent game from MVL, one of my favourites of the match. but he did not go on to win it. Hikaru came back strong in the bullet, as he so often does, won by 4 or 5 in the end, so he sets up the final that we all wanted to see. It's Carlsen versus Nakamura this Friday coming. Do not miss it, do not miss the recap. If you want to see another epic game of chess, check out the video on screen, and thanks very much for watching. See you soon.